Hello, welcome back. I'm, of course, Statman Dave, and today we're going to be talking about Harry Maguire's potential move to Manchester United. Of course, his content sponsored by OneFootball, so jump into the link in the description below and go and give that app a download. Of course, I'm going to be reading out your comments throughout the stream, so get in there, type your thoughts on Maguire. Are you a Maguire in or a Maguire out? They're the big questions. Anyway, let's talk about the news. Of course, the Telegraph reporting yesterday that Jose Mourinho's identified Harry Maguire as his #1 target to deal with United's issues at centre-back. The fee reported to be around £60 million. United have contacted Leicester City. They've made an inquiry, so potentially it is time for a bit of a transfer party. Of course, we're going to get the party started very, very soon. First of all, though, Manchester United potentially telling Mourinho that he needs to offload one of his 5 centre-backs currently at the club. Marcus Rojo looks like probably the one that may be leaving Manchester United. In terms of the cost, that is the big thing we want to talk about now. So in terms of the players that have been brought for a lot of money at centre-half, Maguire would become the second most expensive defender of all time. Harry Maguire. That is absolutely bonkers. Of course, Virgil van Dijk for £75 million joined Liverpool. Then, of course, we had Laporte to City for 57. And then the fullbacks, of course, 50 million for Walker and 52 for Benjamin Mendy. As you can see there, 3 out of the 5 top most expensive transfers have gone to Manchester City, and they just won the Premier League title. So for me, it's kind of one of those things where it's all about spending a lot of money on those transfers. In terms of where we're going to go next, it's going to be to how Harry Maguire fits in. But first, let's just think about Mourinho. So Mourinho obviously is a manager that has turned some players into unbelievable centre-backs. Think over the years, the likes of John Terry, Ricardo Carvalho, Sergio Ramos took to another level under Mourinho, William Carvalho. And in terms of Ricardo Carvalho, and in terms of Harry Maguire, there's something I want to talk about here. So Mourinho likes his young English centre-backs, or centre-backs that are coming to their prime of career. You think when Mourinho joined Chelsea for the first time, John Terry was 23 years old. A player with a lot of potential, but nowhere near, in terms of levels of performance, where he was when Mourinho finished his tenure at Chelsea. So he was 23 years old, and of course the second time Mourinho came, he had another English centre-back, Gary Cahill, at 27 years old, again approaching the prime of his career. Mourinho taking him to that next level. Maguire sits in between there at 25 years old, so could be a similar type of player as that could take his game under Mourinho to the height, to the stars. Anyway, I'm going to quickly jump into the comments, guys. Get your comments in. So straight away, we've got Bonucci would be a better signing. I completely agree with that, but it looks like Bonucci will be going back to Juventus. Leonardo has moved from PSG as the director of football to AC Milan as the director of football. He wants Higuain. Bonucci wants to go back to Juve. So unfortunately, that one looks like it might not go off. So let's move on to how he'll fit in at Manchester United. Of course, United in pre-season have been playing a 3-5-2. Very, very interestingly, because again, Harry Maguire could instantly fit into that system. And as well, United can play 2 strikers. You've got Alexis Sanchez and Lukaku up top. With Mourinho potentially not signing a right winger, that's where United could easily transition to be good against those weaker sides. That was a big thing for United. You think the games away at Huddersfield that United lost, where they really struggled with their build-up in terms of possession. Harry Maguire's a guy that could instantly come in and create that sort of ball-playing platform with Victor Lindelof and Eric Bailly. There's 3 centre-backs there that can thread the balls into midfield, to Fred, to Pogba, to the likes of Alexis Sanchez if he's dropping off, or even Lukaku into the channels. And I think for me, that is why it's so exciting, is that United can play a number of different systems and they've got a guy that can play on the ball. That's the weird thing with Harry Maguire. He looks almost like a centre-back that can't pass. That would just be strong, like a Tony Pulis-esque centre-back. But very much, he's in the Pep Guardiola mould, you could argue, that he's very, very good on the ball. And that was one of United's biggest problems that, again, Harry Maguire could instantly solve in that sort of problem area situation. In terms of stats, of course, for the World Cup, Harry Maguire's defensive stats were as good as his ball-playing stats. He made 4 interceptions, 5 blocks, only committed 7 fouls in 7 games. That's 1 a game, won 7 out of his 11 tackles. There was 17 17 clearances, 44 aerial duels, winning 80% of those. He wasn't just a goal scorer at the World Cup for England. He was the guy that was making the hard yards and doing the grafting away and being 1v1 in certain areas. A game where, England, through the World Cup, they played a 3-5-2, and that's an interesting side of where Harry Maguire could fit in for United. Of course, United potentially playing a 3-5-2 that we saw against AC Milan. England played a 3-5-2 with 3 ball-playing centre-backs at the World Cup. England arguably had one of the best styles on the ball through the group stages, and before they met Croatia, of course, Croatia broke them in terms of their pressing. But before that, there was a really good platform. Again, something that United could adopt. So those three ball playing centre-halves. You've still got Ashley Young as a left wing-back into midfield. Jess Lingard's going to be there. The link-up with Lingard and Harry Maguire was quite good in certain games. But I want to move on to talking about Stat Zone and talking about the World Cup in terms of the stats for England. And the game, obviously, we want to talk about. I've had a lot of comments on Twitter when I tweeted Harry Maguire's defensive stats out about, oh, England only played, they played Colombia, they played these guys, they played that guy. But one of the best performances for me for Harry Maguire was in, of course, the semi-final of the World Cup against Croatia. You can't argue with that. If a guy turns up against Croatia, there's no real chance to argue. And I think the good thing with Harry Maguire in this game is arguably he dealt with certain things that the rest of his teammates really failed to do. In terms of Croatia, they were really, really good at pressing England out of the back. And that was a common theme for them in the game, that they pressed high and England couldn't really, get out. You take a lot of, there's a lot of challenges, interceptions, fouls in that final third. Harry Maguire was actually the guy that was playing forward. Stones had a nightmare, Kyle Walker had a nightmare, Pickford couldn't kick for anything, but the main guy was, of course, Harry Maguire. And that's the interesting side of Harry Maguire, is that he's a defender that will take the ball on, and he has that responsibility. We always talk about leadership, and that's the big thing that's probably coming into the comments now. Is Harry Maguire a leader? Yeah, question coming in right there. And yes, he absolutely is. He's the type of guy that will take the ball on. Leaders in football aren't just about you screaming at your teammates, having a go at someone, but it's also about you playing on the ball and you receiving the ball in decent areas and driving forward into midfield. And that's what Maguire was doing, of course, against Croatia. Croatia pressing really well. You see, his second most passes was to Dele Alli. Dele Alli was playing in between the lines as a left central midfielder, drifting ahead. And that's a good thing from Harry Maguire, playing forward, but not also playing to him, but playing to Ashley Young in advanced areas, playing those forward passes to him to allow Young to attack. Again, so important for Maguire to come in there. You compare that with, who we want to talk about, John Stones or Walker. Let's just take Jones for an example. They were both exactly the same, both awful. Completing all of his passes to either Kyle Walker to his left, or Maguire to his right, or back to Jordan Pickford. The worst thing, of course, with Kyle Walker was he was even worse than Stones in terms of where he was passing, just to Jordan Pickford back. And that's the thing. When you're under pressure as a centre-back, you've got to have balls. You've got to have that leadership quality to think, look, I'm going to go around you and I'm going to take you on and I'm going to, drive into midfield. And that's exactly what Maguire did in this game. England struggled, but Maguire was one of the only ones that was taking on the ball and pushing forward into midfield. And that's a quality at Manchester United that's going to be really, really, really tasty. I think as well, you look at in terms of what he was doing, the 1v1s that Harry Maguire had, he had a few against Rebic. There's one tackle that he won was against Rebic in that wide area. That would have been my only criticism of Harry Maguire pre-World Cup, was I worry that he can't defend those wide areas because he's tall, because he's a bit clumsy looking. Absolutely fantastic for me in the World Cup. Excellent 1v1. But moving on to, in terms of the other games where I thought he did really well and where he was a real threat, was England's game against Panama. Yeah, it was Panama, but England created a lot of their chances, a lot of their goal-scoring, situations from, of course, set pieces. And Harry Maguire was such a threat in this game in terms of, you taking the first goal. It wasn't directly to Harry Maguire, but if you take this first goal as a good example, was that he basically, the first game against Tunisia, the flick on, of course, Kane turns it in. But basically, the whole Panama defence was focusing on Maguire because he was such a threat. Opens up this huge space for John Stones. He strolls up, puts the ball in the back of the net. And it's the interesting side of Maguire that, he's got that quality, real quality from set pieces to dominate his opponent and really take them on in that sort of sense. And for United, if Manchester United do play this 3-5-2, again with that back three, there's three centre-backs you can throw up the pitch and you're looking like, you're looking a lot better. You're looking a threat from set pieces. United didn't score enough goals from set pieces. England scored the most goals from set pieces than any team in the World Cup. And that's something that Maguire really brought from set pieces as well. Ashley Young was finding him a lot. Finding him with these flat balls to the back post. Maguire getting on that, creating those chances. But alternatively, let's go back to how Maguire will fit into Manchester United in different shapes. Of course, the 4-3-3, one of Mourinho's go-to shapes. Maguire very comfortable in a back four. This time partnered just with Eric Bailly. Again, Eric Bailly not looked so great in pre-season so far. Looked like he's had moments where he's a little bit switched off, but also moments where he's winning tackles in the penalty area. Happen frequently against AC Milan. Having someone with like Maguire next to him who is aggressive, who's good at winning those aerial duels, may allow Eric Bailly just to be a little bit more chilled out, not have to be the main man, not have to consistently rush out, but be chilled on the ball. Of course, for Leicester City, they played a 4-4-1-1 in the Premier League. That's been their sort of motto since they won the Premier League. That's the system that they play. Maguire sitting next to Wes Morgan. Wes Morgan, again, playing a sort of slightly more aggressive role. Maguire driving into midfield. In terms of Maguire's stats in the Premier League last season, 34 fouls, which is pretty decent considering he played the same amount of games, about 1 foul a game, which is really good for a centre-back. 40 blocks, 48 interceptions. He won 63 out of his 80 tackles. Again, such a high conversion rate of tackles, and that's what I was talking about. Worried when he's in a wide area? Absolutely not. Don't be worried about that. 176 clearances, and of course, in terms of the aerial duels he won, 65% of those, so dominant in the air. But more interestingly, what we spoke about before, the dribble side of his game, which is really, really good, and it's something that I think with United is really going to help them out of that back, building those situations in terms of driving through, entering that central area and becoming an asset for United when they have possession, which is something you always want to do. Getting Paul Pogba high is going to be a big thing in Harry Maguire's game. Just looking for a game right now. Want to find Leicester City versus West Bromwich Albion in the Premier League. Yes, you watched it, I watched it. It was a corker, but the big thing here was Harry Maguire on the ball was fantastic. In terms of dribbles in the Premier League last season, he completed more dribbles than Harry Kane, Roberto Firmino. Unbelievable stats, yeah? But this game was a good example of showing him on the ball. And there was a goal that Leicester scored. The second goal that they scored was absolutely a fantastic build-up from Leicester City. Really, really quick. And it's a good passing move coming from a throw-in. Here's the pass coming up now. Bang, that pass into midfield. So if you watch that again, Harry Maguire receives the ball. West Brom are sitting deep. There's pressure on him. Someone's pressuring him back. He rolls the pressure, fires a cracking ball in between the lines. Riyad Mahrez plays a little 1-2 and scores. But it's all about that Maguire pass to break the line. So important for Manchester United. If Manchester United, for example, do set up in this 4-3-3, it will be very flexible. Again, Maguire very comfortable in a back four, will be able to find the likes of Fred, Pogba high up the pitch. But alternatively, if we were to move to potentially a diamond, which we've seen from Manchester United in certain games. Last season, you think the second half against Manchester City very much looked like a diamond. Something that Roberto Martinez did at the World Cup, the kind of diamond he played against Brazil, fantastic. Lukaku on the right wing, allowing Lingard to play as a number 10. But again, Maguire's link with those guys, absolutely great. And I just want to go back to the stats just to wrap things up in terms of that game, because again, it shows you a good sort of picture of what Maguire does. He's not scared on the ball. It's that authority on the ball that I really like. In terms of the highest pass completion, of course, it went to the left back, Chigwell, in an advanced area. But more importantly, those passes to Riyad Mahrez, that one in the middle that we showed before for the goal, fantastic ball in between the lines, absolutely fantastic. But anyway, guys, it is time for your comments. I'm going to jump into the comments right now. We're going to talk. Do you think it's a Maguire in or a Maguire out? Remember, Mourinho, very good with English centre-backs. But yeah, guys, right, get in there. Did you know Statman's name is Keith, really? That's a lie. It's Dave. There's questions about Delot being ready for Leicester. He's injured, apparently. What's the app called? It's StatZone. This stream's powered by StatZone, but the One Football app is in the link in the description below. Go and give that a little download. Lots of questions on Fred's number 17, apparently. Yeah, it's a decent number. I prefer having my midfield 6, 8, 10 because I'm a traditional type of guy there. But, of course, it's a decent number there. Keep getting the questions in. Anything that you want to ask me about what you think here? Does the signing of Maguire and his tendency to bring the ball out of the back limit United's formations to a back three, James MUFC? No. I think with someone like Matic at defensive midfield, again, if we flip up the Man United 4-3-3, that would be a good system for Maguire to drive into midfield. Matic becomes the centre-back. Easy as you like. It's that sort of having that fluidity between two systems that allows someone like Maguire to be really, really decent. Carry out the back, Matic comes in to cover, you're laughing. You're absolutely laughing the way to the bank and a Premier League title. The question coming here, would you rather have Alderweireld or Maguire? Personally, I'd rather have Harry Maguire. I think that he's got more potential in Mourinho than Alderweireld. I think Alderweireld is a wonderful defender, but aerially can be a target. That's the thing I've always had that question mark about Alderweireld in the air. We know Harry Maguire won 65% of his aerial duels in the Premier League last season, so I'm happy with that. That is absolutely lovely. Keep getting your questions in, guys. Dave, I don't think we've done enough this window to complete with the Premier League. Our fullback situation is a mess with Valencia injured. It's an interesting one. I think a left-back is needed. I think Delot being injured and Valencia is pretty big. I think Delot is going to be the big guy. He's going to be so good. Guys, seriously, Delot, very talented individual. Do you think Shaw is the starter this season? Well, yeah, if we have a look at that 3-5-2 that Man United played, it's one of these things where Luke Shaw is at left back at the moment. I think that's kind of like where he is with, in pre-season with Ashley Young being away at England. He's going to start the season, so it's a massive opportunity for Luke Shaw. There's been some good quotes coming out for Luke Shaw that he wants to be United's left back this season. So that's something that I want to see. Luke Shaw step up in pre-season and at the first few games of the season when Young is away, when Young's having this rest now. Want him to turn it on. I really do. I love those sort of stories where players are doubted. They're really doubted and they come back. It shows real character, real character. But again, yeah, Luke Shaw should start in this 3-5-2 at the start of the season, with Young obviously being away. Do United need a backup striker? Again, not flipping back to the 3-5-2, but this is a system that United could play with two guys up front, which would leave Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford. There's four guys that can play those two striking positions, but also Juan Mata could play in that position as he did against AC Milan in pre-season. So I think that's kind of decent in that sort of respect. Last few questions now. Do you expect us to sign a winger before the transfer window finishes? I'd prefer to get a centre-back and a left-back if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys. But, everyone is great. Do a video on the left-back. Please give your honest views. Yeah, I could do that for you, Chris, in the coming weeks. Shaw versus Sandro. I'd go probably Alexandro, but I mentioned before, if you're going to spend loads of money on a left-back, why not try and get Marcelo? Why not throw the buckets of cash that Man United have at Marcelo, bring the best left-back and world football to United in a 3-5-2? Anyway, guys, I think that's going to be that for today. Thanks, of course, for joining me in this live stream. You guys are amazing. I'm Statman Dave. And until next time, till we have our next party, I will see you guys later. Good night. See you later.